So I'm going to fill my bucket up to the 2. Try to get warm water. Shane, grab a chair. Sorry guys, it's been like 2 years since we've thrown or used the bulk of the thing. Because what was it, Corona, and then we didn't throw last year. Yeah, it's been 2 years. Yes. All right, and a sponge. Okay, so you're gonna have those tools and a sponge. I'll throw that in there for me. Okay. Just like with the buffing wheel, you can't have any loose anything because, especially hair, you don't want your hair to get sucked into the wheel and ripped out of your head, which it can happen. My friend is she teaches ceramics in New Jersey, and that happened to one of her students. This girl had really long hair, and she's like on the wheel, and it just like ripped a chunk of her hair out. So make sure you have your hair up in a ponytail, please. All right. So the wheel, to turn it on and off, on the side, there's a little button, and it has like a little light, so when the light's on, you know that it's on. Okay. Foot pedal makes it go faster or slower. Fast goes down, like just like in a car, like you're pressing forward, or back just turns it off. Okay. This is the splash pan. Okay, it moves around. Make sure it's actually on. To remove it, there are 2 sides here. There's like 2 little protrusions on the outside. You just kind of push on them and push them forward, and then this kind of like rocks back and forth to take off. Okay, so that will be for cleaning up, and then for putting it back on, you kind of have to dig down, rock, and this goes back on. Okay, so you need to make sure your splash pan is on properly. You have your thing is plugged in. I'm gonna get a 2 surge protector things, like what are they called, power strips. I had 2. I don't know where they went. That was 2 years ago, so I have to find them and or buy new ones. Okay, and then this is the wheel head. Okay, these 2 ones here, do you see I have little pins that are sticking up off of it? You need to use a bat for those 2, which is Joe, you want to look in that where the dustpan and brushes are, there's a black circle. Can you just lift that up and show everybody? So in the island where the dustpan and brushes are is little black circles, plastic circles. Perfect. So just hold it up. That's a bat, okay? You only use a bat if you're on these 2 things. You have to use a bat or else you're going to get knocked with those little pins on your wrist. So I don't think you want to do that, okay? We're only going to be making a small clay piece, so you don't need like a honking huge piece of clay. You need like, I'm going to say like a softball size, okay? So I'm going to grab from my fresh clay that we used yesterday. And since this is like a conglomeration of a whole bunch of different things of clay, I'm going to wedge it, okay? Wedging it is you put it down and you kind of like knead it, okay? And what this does is it kind of like reconstitutes everything together. You want it to be nice and solid. And you want it to be, don't put my paper cutter. Okay, so you want a nice ball, okay? And now we're going to start. Okay. The setting up process, I wasn't talking so much, it should take like a couple of like 5 minutes, okay? To get yourself set down, to fill up your bucket, to get your clay and this set up, okay? I'm going to take this off before I ruin it. Okay. You need to have a lot of water when you're doing this, okay? So to start, you're going to get your sponge, and you just want to slightly dampen the wheel, okay? It doesn't have to be soaking wet. If it's soaking wet, what's going to happen is it's going to slide right off, and that's not what you need. So I just want this to be slightly wet, okay? I'm going to take my ball of clay, and I'm going to try and get it into the center, okay? Now, if I just started going right now, it's going to slide right off. So I'm going to turn it on a little bit, and I'm going to just kind of pat it down, okay? And then the last step is I'm going to take a wet finger, and I'm going to just seal my edge here. Okay, so hopefully if you do that, it should not slide off. Okay, so the procedure for throwing is you have to center your clay first, and then you're going to throw. So for centering your clay, you're going to have wet hands. I'm going to kind of be pushing to the middle with both of my hands, and you have to make a cone up. So it's like a tower of clay, and from that tower of clay, you're then going to push it with a steady hand here, and that will center it. Okay, so the procedure is when you get the clay up into a tower, and I have my hand anchored down here, as I'm pushing that clay down, if this is anchored, it's going to fill my hand and be on center. Okay? Okay. And once you turn your wheel on, you can leave it. Like you can take your foot off. Okay? You want it to be like kind of fast, medium speed. Am I going the right way? I think I am. Yes. Okay. So I have wet hands. I'm going to try and anchor my elbows into my body. And you always need water. So right now, I'm pushing to the center, and I'm trying to cone my clay up. So bringing this clay up is kind of like helping to get it all on center, and then I'll be centering it again once I push it down. Okay. So you guys see like the top here is not really moving too much. It's on center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now push this clay down and hopefully get the rest of this to kind of follow suit. So I'm going to lock my hand in. My left hand is going to be locked. And as I come down, I'm going to push to get this clay. Come on. Okay, to be on center. Okay, that's pretty good for not having done this in 2 years. Okay, so cone up, push down. Now I have like a little kind of like flat disc. I could probably get this a little flatter. All right. The next step is to put our hole in the middle. Okay. When you put your hole in the middle, oh, I feel air bubbles. That's bad news. Okay. When you put your hole in the middle, there's a couple of ways you can do it. Some people kind of put a thumb in. Okay. Some people like kind of hold on the side, and then they just kind of like lock their fingers and then put their 2 fingers in. It really you have to just kind of go what feels right. I would suggest you guys watch. I have a couple of video resources that you can watch. But I'm going to lock with my left, and then I'm going to kind of guide down with my thumb. Slow. And as you do it, make sure you put water, because friction is your enemy. So I'm slowly pushing down. Okay, and so I made a little opening. You don't want to go all the way to the bottom, because then you're going to have a hole in your pot. So I'm going to go down. And I'm going to kind of stop where I think I'm like maybe a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch from the base. Okay. And what you can do, you can use your needle tool to help measure your base. So I'm going to kind of stick it into the middle. Say like I have that much clay, like at the bottom, which is fine. Okay, if you have a little more, that's fine too. Okay, so from here, so we coned up, we came down, centered it, made our middle. Now we're gonna pull our base. Okay, so when I say pull our base, I'm gonna have my hands in here, and I'm slowly gonna bring my hands together, slowly. To keep your clay on center, you want to make sure that your hand doesn't move until one revolution is finished. So if you move too fast, the clay didn't have a chance to go all the way through to move, and then you're going to have things that are going to get knocked off. So slow is always better, okay? So I'm going to go. So I'm going to kind of lock, and I'm going to pull. Shouldn't have that much water in there so you can see actually what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to pull my clay toward my other hand on the outside. I'm going to do this very slowly. Come on. You guys can see my inside's getting a little bigger. Okay. And try not to do, a lot of people when they have, you guys are probably too young for this, Ghost, that's always the joke of like the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze, way before your time. There's a scene in it where they're like doing pottery and it's like everyone's got their like two hands in there. That's not how it goes. You always want to work from only one position or in one spot. It's easier to stay on center if you're only working in one area. And my pot's getting off center as we speak. Ugh. You always try and make it work. If it's off, it'll be a little slightly wonky, but we don't have the time, so we'll just keep going. Hopefully I'll get it in a minute. So from here, I'll call that. All right. I have my base. Okay. You don't want to have like a little cone like sticking out in the middle, and you want to do what's called compressing your base. If you don't compress the base, it's gonna crack. So I'm gonna just kind of take my sponge and just kind of smooth out and push that bottom just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. All right. Now for pulling the wall. I say pulling the wall, it's not really pulling. It's like you're pinching the clay from the bottom and then it's slowly going to be rising up. Okay? You're not pinching like this. You're kind of using your hands, both hands, to get the clay to rise. Oh my God, all this slip. Okay. So with wet hands, I'm going to be kind of pinching with my fingers on the inside and the outside. Come on. And I'm going to use kind of like my finger is going to be kind of like a knuckle. And then as I pull, God, I feel like I'm in the wrong spot. Am I? Maybe I am. Okay. I'm going to switch that. Okay. I'm going to have my finger on the outside. I'm going to be meeting with my finger on the inside. And sometimes what I like to do is I like to use my sponge to kind of help me to distribute my weight, distribute my pinch. That's better. So you guys can see I'm pinching down at the bottom here. I just start cleaning up that. Okay. So I'm going to pinch at the bottom here. And I'm going to start to pull up. I'm trying to keep my hands steady. My fingers is getting thrown off. So I'm pinching at my bottom. I'm slowly trying to bring this clay up. Oh, I'm going to lose it. I feel it. You want to try and keep it more of a cylinder. So you want to kind of not have it flare out. You want to kind of stay up. And if your rim gets wonky and crazy, like mine is, the cheating way to fix it, which is perfectly acceptable, is to take your needle tool and just slowly cut the rim off. It just gives you kind of like a restart. Okay. So my walls are pretty thick. I can still be pinching and pulling and bringing this up. But you want to pinch slowly as you rise, because, like I said, if you pinch unevenly and pull up too quickly, you're gonna have like thin, oh, there we go. You're gonna have like thin and thick spots. Oh, that's better. Okay. That's much better. Okay. You wanna make sure you don't have any standing water in the bottom of your pot. Okay. So if you guys can see my pot, you see it up there? Okay. I have a nice interior that's round, but can you guys see like the base out here is like flanged and kind of gross? Okay, so before you take it off the wheel, you're going to clean that edge up a little bit. Okay, oh, it's metal. Okay, and the way you're going to clean it up a little bit is with this going. Okay, because there's like a ton of clay trapped right here in this bottom section here. I could probably try to keep pulling it up, but you know what? You guys are going to only have a certain amount of time, so you got to call it at some point. What I do is you're going to take your rib, and I'm just going to kind of clean it up down there a little bit. Okay. And what this is going to do is it's going to be easier for you to take it off the wheel. But also, it's going to give you all that, it's going to get rid of some of that clay that you're going to have to get rid of later anyway. Okay, so I'm just kind of using my tool, I'm just kind of scraping it to get rid of that little flange of clay. Okay, now, I'm just going to kind of smooth my rim out a little bit. And make sure there's no water on the inside here. Okay, all right, yeah, not my best work, I'll take it. All right, so now the trick is to get it off of the wheel head, right? Because it's not, there's nothing underneath here, right? It's just my pot. So how many of you guys drive and have ever hydroplaned or been in a car that's hydroplaned? Like it kind of like just loses its grip and just kind of slides a little bit. Okay, very scary. We're going to use that same principle here to remove our pot from the wheel. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to kind of get your hand cleaned up, sort of. Okay. Okay. What we're gonna do is, so this is removing the pot from the wheel head. If you're on one of those wheels and it has just the bat, you're gonna just cut off and leave it on the bat, and then you're gonna just like pack up the whole bat. Okay. But if you're not on a bat and you need to remove it, then this is how you're gonna do it. So I'm going to take a little bit of water. I'm gonna kind of put it around my pot. Okay. Then I'm going to take my needle, my wire cutter. Okay. I'm going to pull it flat. You want to keep it right on the wheel head. Those wheels humming. Okay. Flat on the wheel head. And I'm going to push away and towards myself. Okay. So I'm going to push. I'm trying to keep it nice and low. I'm going to push away. And then I'm going to push towards myself. I'm going to try and get, you see it moved a little bit? So I'm trying to get the water underneath that pot. Okay. Joe, I'm sorry I'm bothering you. Can you get me one of those smaller pieces of wood that are kind of stacked on the side, on the left side of the island? Yeah, give me one of those. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Awesome. Okay. So you guys are going to hydroplane your project onto a piece of wood. Okay. So again, if you're on one of those and you're just on a bat, you're just going to cut it off, pack it up. But if you're on one of these four, you need to get your project, watch your shoes, and get your project off a different way. Okay. So I have water underneath my project right now. I'm going to put a little bit more on the front just to make sure. Okay. With mostly dry hands, like your hand should be cleanish. Okay. I am going to just push my project off onto the wood. Okay. Don't chicken out. When people chicken out, then their project is half on the wheel, half off the wheel. Okay. You have to just do it. Okay. Right, Ned? What is that? That's a stupid YouTube video, I'm sure. Do it. Just do it. Okay. One sweep. Okay. If you're nervous and you can't like hold both, have a friend hold here. But the trick is you have to have it kind of match up to the wheel. And I'm going to just 1, 2, 3, and push it off. Okay. And that's it. And now it's on there. Okay. Once my project is on my board, I can pack it up. You're going to keep it on the board, and then the next day you will put it in with your table stuff, okay? Because we don't have enough boards for everybody to just keep their stuff on the board, okay? So I'm going to pack this up. I have plastic bags. So you're just going to pack it in a plastic bag, and we're going to use this last set of shelves here that no class is using, and that's going to be our spot for stuff to dry, okay? So I'm going to pack this up in a minute. Now is the tricky part, cleaning up. Now, can everybody just understand we have to clean up after ourselves, and you can do everything that you need to do sitting right here, okay? I'm not going to get up yet until the very end. So I had plenty of water in my tray, okay? I'm going to use my sponge that I have in here, and I'm going to clean up my wheel, okay? I'm going to use my rib here to get this extra gunk off the middle. Okay. But I'm using and this is why having plenty of water is going to be key, because that will help you guys with cleaning up. So a nice, okay, I'm going to get all the water off my wheel. I'm going to make sure I get the side. Okay. There's extra water and slip in here. I can just take that and dump it. Okay. And then I'm going to clean my wheel on my splash pan. Okay. With a sponge, with my water, I'm just going to kind of go in and get this clean. So you guys can see I have not left my seat yet. I'm still using the water that I have here. And again, that's why it's important to have plenty of water, because at the end here, you don't want to be like smearing slip all over your wheel. Okay, there has to be plenty of water that you're going to be able to clean up with. Okay. So like I'm trying to make sure there's no like clay or anything in there. Okay, not terrible. Okay, I'm going to check the bottom. Make sure the bottom is not gross. Okay. I'm going to clean this one. So again, this comes off. I rock, 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 back and forth. Why does that keep turning off? Carefully. Okay. Try to do it gently, because sometimes people when they put the water in their bucket, then they throw half of it on the floor. I'm trying to get the water on the floor. Okay. But I'm just using my sponge to kind of soak up the rest of this. You guys saw that I like had cleaned my hands first, so that like as I'm gripping and grabbing stuff, I'm not like leaving a trail of, you know, clay handprints as I'm going. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty clean, right? I'm gonna check, make sure there's nothing underneath here. My sponge. Okay, I'm gonna put this back. Again, check. My wheel head's nice and clean. Okay. And clean the front. Okay, I'm gonna clean my tools. Don't leave your tools in the bucket, because then the next person will hit themselves with a, you know, piece of metal, or, you know, you want to get all the clay off your tools. Okay. Oh, seriously? Okay, and clean my clay, my needle tool. And I'm going to clean the front. Okay. So you guys can see I have not left my seat yet. All of this was done sitting here. Okay. The reason we do it this way is because I can't have 6 people cleaning their vats in the, cleaning their splash pans in the sink. Just is not going to happen. Okay. So the last part about cleaning up, there's a bunch of is like clay water in here, as well as chunks of clay. Because you guys remember I ripped part of my pot off twice. Okay. So these pieces of clay are still good. Okay. What we're going to do is I have a bucket of like clay to be reconstituted. What does that mean? Like, we can take this watery clay and make it back into clay. So I have it over here. Let's see, how full is it? White clay dry. This is white clay dry. This is white slip. What is it? Oh, nice. Okay. So this is slip. Okay. You guys can see? It's like watery clay. Okay. What you can do is you can get your chunks of clay out and put in there. Okay, so I'm going to get my bucket. I'm going to go over to the slip bucket. And I'm going to get rid of the big chunks. So I'm going to reach my hand in here. And I'm going to get the big pieces of clay. Don't splash, please. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't think you guys want to get yourselves dirty. But I'm going to go in and just get all the big chunks of clay. Okay, we want to try and get as little water in here as possible, because it's like very high. But I'm trying to get all the pieces of clay. Okay? Okay. And now that my bucket is empty and it's just filled with water, I'm going to clean it out. So now I'm finally going to the sink. Okay? With running water, it always has to be running because we don't want the clay to get onto the sink. Okay? I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to empty my bucket. Again, always have water running. You don't want to have chunks of clay in the sink. And you shouldn't have any chunks of clay coming out of your bucket. And as I'm going, I'm washing my bucket. Okay. To make sure my bucket doesn't have any clay in it. Make sure the bottom is nice and clean. Okay. Checking the sink, make sure there's no chunks. And We don't want to leave anything like soaking wet. Okay? So I'm going to kind of just get a little bit of splinter out of here. Okay. So I have my bucket. I can leave my tools just right next to it. Okay? Sponge in the bucket. Okay? Cleaned up. And after putting away my pot, there's a blue box over here that has bags in it. Okay? You want to make sure you bag up your project. So I have what you call it, bags. I have like grocery bags. Then I also have these clay bags. These are bags from buckets of clay, or from things of clay. Okay? It's got a lot of little remnants in it. You can just empty it out. Get this white clay in there. And I'm going to pack up my bag. So make sure there's no hole in your bag. And take my project, put it in the bag. Okay. Wrap it up. Put it on the shelf. So if I have my project on a board, you guys are going to, the next day, cut it off the board again, and then put it with your project that you guys are working on, like have it at your table. Okay? Do this, like try to do it the next day, because if you don't, you're gonna forget what your project looks like. Like, you will forget. Okay? Since there are a bunch of you, if a bunch of pots get made on one day, I would say maybe put a piece of masking tape on your bag or on your board, so you definitely know that it's yours. You'd be surprised. You will forget what your stuff looks like, especially if there's 5 other ones that kind of look sort of the same. Okay? So, that is the procedure for throwing. What I'm going to do is I have these laminated handouts for each wheel. I have to find them. I packed everything up last year when I was only going to be in here one class period, so I didn't know what I was going to be teaching. So I have to find those laminated things. But what it does is it outlines the procedure again. So like wedging the clay, getting it on the wheel, patting it down, sealing the edge, cone up, push down to make sure it's centered, poke a hole or push a hole for the center, pull your floor, like the floor of the pot, and then pull up. Okay? But that's the procedure. You guys have 2 days to do it. So I'd say on the first day, just like mess around and like try to get it something. But if you don't, then don't sweat it, because you have a second day to do it. Okay? Questions? All right. You guys have like 5-6-ish minutes. What I want you to do, please, can you guys check to make sure that you have submitted your drawings for your project? Check that everything has been submitted up to this point, okay? So that's what you do for the last few minutes. The wheel is clean. This is here. You'll get back after a grade. I'll get back to you when I grade. So I haven't graded anybody's stuff yet.